Good morning, guys. I am on the back porch today because we got a lot of weather last night and my front porch is completely soaked. My chairs are soaked and everything. So I'm just going to do a devotional out here and want to talk to you. I've been in the book of John and just reading through the book of John, and I was reading chapter 2 yesterday and about the wedding at Cana. And you may have heard that story before, and I've heard it a bunch of times. And I just kind of read through it, and I was like, basically the story where Jesus turns water into wine at a wedding, and it's the best wine, and they're surprised that they waited to bring the best wine out until last after everybody was already drunk. And I was reading that, and I was just like, I just don't understand. What's God speaking to me here? What are you saying to me in this story? And so I just started on verse 1 of chapter 2, and it said, on the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee. And I started thinking, third day of what? Well, what was happening in the first 2 days? Why does John say it that way? On the third day. Well, for these first 2 days, he was just calling disciples. Follow me, follow me, follow me. And then they were coming. They were following. They were following Jesus. And that was really all that was happening. And then this wedding at Cana, where he turns water into wine, that's his first miracle. That's his first miracle. And John makes a note to point out it was on the third day. I started thinking about, why is that important? And I don't know that there's something mystical or magical about the third day. But I do know this. Lazarus was raised on the third day. Jesus himself was risen on the third day. Let's look over to John chapter 11, this story of Lazarus. It says there's a man named Lazarus. He was a friend of Jesus. He was sick, and so Mary and Martha send for Jesus. Say, our brother's sick. Of course, they know that he's the Lord. They're already believing in him, and so come and heal Lazarus. When Jesus heard that, he said, this sickness is not just about death. It's not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. So, first, Jesus is telling us point blank, the words of God, sometimes our sickness, God is using that for his glory. So sickness, sometimes God allows sickness for his glory. Jesus said it himself. Why sickness? Why suffering? Why pain? Jesus says, for the glory of God. That's why. And so he says, that's what this is about. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister, Mary, and Lazarus. He loved them. It wasn't like he was like, I barely know those people. No, he loved these people. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place he was. 2 more days. Lazarus is sick, but he stays 2 more days. And he doesn't come until what? The third day. And by the time he gets there, guess what? Lazarus has died. Martha is angry. She even says, if you would have been here, you could have saved him. And actually, the disciples were surprised that he didn't leave earlier. And so they say, Jesus says to them, our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up. And this is when he's getting ready to leave on the third day. Then his disciples said, Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get well. He'll get up. However, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he was speaking about taking rest and sleep. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him. Jesus knew what he was going to do when he got there. He knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. But he allowed that suffering so that they could see his power, so they could believe. Same is true of his resurrection. His resurrection was so unbelievable that when his body came up missing, they didn't believe. They doubted. When Mary came and said, hey, the Lord is alive. The Lord is alive. They doubted. It wasn't just Thomas. So none of them could believe it. None of them. They all doubted. I don't know what is happening in your life. I don't know the pain. I don't know the suffering. I don't know the stress. I don't know the anxiety. But I know that the Lord knows. And he has allowed it. And I believe that suffering and pain happens for his glory. God wants to be glorified through whatever you're going through. And he loves you just like he loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus. He loves you. And he wants you to be able to see his power. I don't know what situation you're going through. But I would say this. Before you give up on God, before you give up that everything is terrible and nothing is ever going to get better, before you give up hope, before you lose faith, give it 3 days. Give it 3 days. And let's see what's going to happen within that time. I'm not saying that magic happens in 3 days, but I know that Jesus works in 3 days. Let's see what God is going to do in your situation in the next 3 days. And if you're brave enough, post it in here. Post it in here in the comments and let us know what you're praying about. Let us know what your struggle is. Let us know so we can pray with you, and let's start watching. Let's see what is God going to do in the next 3 days. So give it 3 days, guys. Have a great day.